Good evening. My name is Judge Everett Mitchell. I am a Dane County Circuit Court judge as well as senior pastor of Christ the Solid Rock Baptist Church. I've been asked to kind of give my thoughts and my ideas related to voting and its importance and significance, especially as a faith leader and a person of faith who has chosen to use my faith to help motivate my entrance into my judicial role. I kind of got to first back up and say that I've been in the ministry since the age of 15 years old, and I was called to preach at a young age. And a lot of the experiences that I saw during that time, especially both in church and in community, always gave me a drive to make sure that my faith was connected to something practical, that the work that I was doing was going to make an impact on the lives of individuals. And so even as a young person, I was always committed to, the ideals of justice, ideals of fairness, and equity. And even though I didn't have mentors around me who were elected officials or who had chosen to be in elected offices, I did realize that at some point there might be a need for me to think differently about how do we activate and how do we use things more appropriately. For me, the idea of voting really hit home by the time I got to Morehouse College, because that's when I was really exposed to a lot of the civil rights icons. Obviously, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who was an alumnus of Morehouse, was really a focus at the school, and it brought us into a space where we were thinking more strategically about how do you access power, how do you use your power to be critical about systems that oppress people, how do you deal with systemic oppression, how do you break it apart, how do you reorganize it, how do you organize against it, and how do you rebuild it so that those who are the most oppressed could be the ones who are able to find their voice and use their voice for the power of change that they wanted to see in the world. I remember reading Howard Thurman's book, Jesus and the Disinherited, and he raised a fundamental question. He asked this question like, what does the Bible have to say, and more specifically, what does Jesus have to say to the people whose backs are against the wall? And so when you think about the role that voting plays, it is a significant aspect of standing up and using our voices in the manner in which my ancestors really required for us to do so. They sacrificed, they gave their lives. And as a faith leader, I think it's important upon me to make sure that I continue to push my community to do the same thing. The Black National Anthem definitely says, lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven rings. And so those ideals of voting is about lifting every voice, making sure that every voice is counted, and then working together in the world to ensure that we push hard to ensure that these voices are heard and that systems don't marginalize or use what they can to keep people at home, but that we use our voices and consistently use our voices to see the impact can be made. When I decided to run for judge, I was already the senior pastor of Christ the Solid Rock, and I've been pastoring the church for about 4 years. And the idea of using my law degree, I graduated from the University of Wisconsin-Madison with my law degree in Princeton from seminary. And so I realized that I spent all this time, nurturing a law degree. What was I going to use it for? And that's when the idea of running for judge became very important, because watching men and women go through the court system as a prosecutor, I realized that a lot of them didn't have the support or voices that they needed to, advocate for themselves. And it's important to have representation so that when people walked into the bench or walked into a courtroom and saw the bench, that they saw somebody that represented them, looked like them, and in some places, and hopefully understood their conversation. And by that, when I say understood their conversation, it's important to know that those experiences throughout the world matter. And as a trauma survivor, and as a man, a person of color who grew up in poverty and understands the struggles, uh, I also understand that sometimes individuals have a sense that they don't trust these systems, and sometimes rightly so. So choosing to stand up and run for a elected position really was me deciding that I needed to be more proactive in being in the system so that I could be the person who is both looking forward but also looking within and seeing other systemic things that can be made to change as long as I'm in that position. Initially, I didn't see it, but as soon as I took the bench, I started to realize that even as a judge, you can make sure that you are using your power to make change in a very significant way. And that's what I've come to summarize is that power is given in these positions, and the question you have to ask yourself is, what are you going to do with the power that has been given? And that power, I've chosen to make sure that I use that power to support children and families and really rework our system so that we see the children and we're not always trying to just protect those who have positions. Why is that important? Because it's the most vulnerable of us that really do need that support. And in these positions, I get to combine both a faith that everybody knows about, but also a passion for the law, which I think is the one of the cornerstones of our democracy. And combining both of them allows me to stand in the vein in which my community has always been. We've always been a people who prayed, but also people who fought and the people who, lobbied. You think about Thurgood Marshall, you think about Bishop Floyd Flake in New York, you think about so countless others who went to church on Sunday, but then by Monday they were starting to fight again for the same civil liberties that all of us enjoy today. And so it's with that great love and great passion and appreciation for that sacrifice that I do the work that I do and remain committed to ensuring that not just faith, but voices of faith are allowed to enter into this space and present a vision of a Jesus who's trying to answer, what do we have to say to the people whose backs are against the wall? God bless you, and thank you so much for this opportunity, and look forward to hearing more about the impact that we made among faith leaders and those who are trying to push for change and using their faith as a fire to do so. God bless you. Bye-bye.